Good morning, everyone. Good Chodesh, Aleph, Marcheshvan. Here we go. Perek of the Sheviis. We got two more prakim left today and tomorrow, and then we start Chumas on Sunday, Mercy Hashem. Today's shiur is sponsored by Nishmas Aaron Nachum and Simcha Kohen, Yeshua Mordechai Ben Shepsel, Baruch Asar B'Shmuel Leib, and Moshe Ben Yosef. May the Neshamas have an aliyah. Amen. Perek starts off. Let's get right into it. Okay, so we spoke. I mean, so far throughout this Masechta and throughout the Seder about the difference between Am Aratzim and people who Neramanim and people who are Chaverim, and the different criteria that an Am Aretz can't be trusted and a Naaman is trusted for some things, and a Chaver is trusted for Tumah Tahara and everything else. And so today, the Mishnah starts off talking about that's prohibited to buy most species of produce from Am Aratzim. The Mishnah starts off listing 6 exceptions to the rule and explains why. So here we go, Mishnah Aleph. Pegam is a hard word. Yabuzin, Hashotim, Chalagligos, Kuspar, Shibaharim, Karpas, Shibanaharos, Garger Shal Afar. The tongue twister. Okay, let's go through this. Pegam is Ru. Your Buzolim Hashotim are wild asparagus. Chalagagus, Kuspar, whatever. Purslane, mountain coriander, river celery, and meadow rocket. What else? This stuff. So the Mishnah specifies wild asparagus, mountain coriander, river celery, and meadow rocket, as opposed to the varieties of these vegetables that are cultivated in gardens. The Mishnah's ruling does not apply to garden varieties because they are more valuable and would not be abandoned by their owners. We're talking about like these alternative crops that are located in like weird places that are not going to have any value by the owners. So all these 6 things, Peturim and Maisus, are patur from Meiser, for Chumas and Meisers during the non-Shemitah years. And they can be bought from any person, even in Am Aretz during Shemitah. There's no vegetables like these are protected by the owner. These species are worth so little that the owners abandon them and give up their rights of ownership. So since they're hefker, then they're patur from Chumas and Maisus, even in non-Shemitah years, and since they have so little value, you can buy them from an Am Aretz and Shemitah because he will not guard them illegally. Moving on to a different topic, we're talking about Evet Sefichen, which are aftergrowth. They grew from seeds that fell from the crop of the 6th year, and since they're not illegally planted on Shemitah, they are biblically permitted. But the Chachamim were concerned that people might unlawfully plant crops on Shemitah and then claim that what grew was a Sefichen from the 6th year's crop, and therefore they decreed that the aftergrowths are usher. Rabbi Yehuda says, continuing Mishnah Aleph, Sefiche charda mutarin, aftergrowths of mustard are mutter, shelo nechshadu alein over avera, because even lawbreakers are not suspected regarding them, meaning that even people who plant the crops during Shemitah, they would not cultivate mustard plants because they have very little value. All other species, however, are included in the Gezerah. Rabbi Shimon says, Kol asvichim mutarim, all aftergrowths are permitted. Chutz me'svichei kruv, she'en kiyotzi behem kiyirakos sadeh. Except for aftergrowths of cabbage, the likes of which are not found among vegetables in the field. And the last opinion of this Mishnah, the Chachamim say, Kol ha'asurin, all aftergrowths are forbidden without exception. No, nothing to discuss over here. Mishnah Beis. The rest of this chapter is going to talk about biur, about your person can. That's what biur is and how it works. Shalosh Aratzos, the biur. There are 3 lands, 3 provinces in Eretz Yisrael for the purpose of biur. Yehuda, the Eva Yarden, Hagalil. Judea, which is the south of Eretz Yisrael, the west side of the Jordan River, which is the center of Eretz Yisrael, and the Galil, which is the northern part of Eretz Yisrael. As long as the type of produce is available to wild animals somewhere in a particular province, it may be eaten at home anywhere in that province. So once it disappears from the fields of a province, eating it without biur is usher throughout the entire province, even if it's still available in the other 2 provinces. There are 3 different sections. The shalosh artzos, they call achas achas. And then within the 3 provinces of north, middle, and south, there are 3 regions within each and every one of the provinces. Meaning, so there's a total of like 9 sections, three provinces, and then 3 regions in each, and that's a total 9. And each region has mountainous areas, lowlands, and valleys. So now we're going to identify each region. Galil Ha'elyon, Galil Atachton, Ve'emek. So the 3 regions up north are the Upper Galilee, the Lower Galil, and the Valley. That explains it to you. Great. Mikvar Chananya L'Malan, the mountainous territory from Kvar Chananya and above, I mean northward, Kol She'ena Megado Shikman, wherever the terrain does not support the growth of sycamore trees because of its mountains, Galil Ha'elyon, that is the Upper Galil. Mikvar Chananya L'Matan, and the lowlands that extend from Kvar Chananya and below southward, Koshu Megado Shikman, wherever the terrain does support the growth of sycamore trees because of its flat terrain, Galil Tachton, that's considered to be the Lower Galil. With Techum Tiveria Ha'emek, and in the vicinity of Tiveria is the valley. Okay. Then regarding the next province of Yehuda, you also have 3 provinces. You have 3 regions: Hahar, Shvela, Emek, the mountains of Judea, the lowlands of Judea, and the valley of Judea. So what are the 3? And that's the middle section right there. So the Shiflas load, Shiflas Hadarim, and the lowlands of Lod, which is like I think near Tel Aviv. It has the same status as the lowlands of the south, meaning the lowline region of Judea. As long as there's a type of produce that can still be found in the lowlands of the south, meaning in Judea, then that type of produce can be eaten at home in the lowlands of Lod, which is the central province. Sorry, I'm sorry. Yehuda is the south. Let me just say here before I'm confused. Right. Okay. So we're talking about. Oh, okay. 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 So we were talking about. Okay. So Judea is the south. Okay. So in the south you have three sections: with the mountains, the lowlands, and the valley, and then we went back into the middle section. Right. So Lod is in the middle section, and the Shifla Sadarim, which is in the south of Eretz Yisrael. Okay, fine. Mibeis Choron ve'ad Hayam Medina Achas, but the territory that extends from Beis Choron to the Mediterranean Sea is one region. That's the valley region of the west side of the Jordan. Okay. Going to Mishnah Gimel. Ulama Amru Shalosh Artzos. So why did the Chachamim say three lands? Since each province is divided into three regions, that's a total of 9. So why are you saying 3? Just say 9. They specified 3 provinces in order to teach that we may continue eating produce in any one province until the last of the species disappear from all 3 regions of that province. Yes, you have to clear them out of all 3. However, if it can still be found in one region of that province, we can continue eating it in all the other regions in that province, because the province is treated as a single unified area in regard to biur, despite the fact that it can be divided into smaller regions. So if you have so instead of saying but even if it runs out in section 1, you can still eat it in the other 2. So I don't. That's sort of. I don't know. I don't personally. I don't understand how to answer the question, because like you can still divide up into 9 sections, and let when it runs out in section 1, then sections 2 through 9 can still eat it. So how does that answer the question? Why they only did 3 and not 9? Still don't understand that. I still don't understand that. I don't get it. But okay, let's move on. Rabbi Shimon says, Lo Amru Shalosh Archos Ela Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon says, no. They only spoke of 3 lands with regard to Judea, in the southern. Each of those regions is a separate area in regard to biur. But all the other provinces in Eretz Yisrael, meaning the Galil and the central area, which is the west side of the Jordan, they have the same biur deadline as the mountains of the king, meaning the mountainous regions of Judea, which I believe are the Har Yerushalayim. The Mishnah says there are 2 exceptions to this rule. Number 1, and all the lands of Eretz Yisrael, they are all as one with respect to olives and dates. You can eat either of those 2 species as long as they can be found in anywhere around Eretz Yisrael, because the entire country is deemed one area in this aspect. As long as once they run out, you can't eat them anymore, which kind of makes sense. Mishnah Dalet. Ochlin al hamufkar. We may continue to eat a species in the home on account of produce that is found in ownerless fields, since such fields are open to wild animals. Havalo al hashamor. We may not eat a species in the home on account of produce that is growing in protected places, meaning on trees and courtyards, because wild animals cannot enter those areas, so that you can't count on that. Rabbi Yossi Matir Af al Hashamar. But Rabbi Yossi argues, and he says that a person can continue eating a species of produce even on account of produce growing in protected places, while the animals cannot reach it. We may continue to eat species on account of produce that birds put in their nesting pots. And on account of the second crop of a double crop tree. We may not eat early ripening grapes on account of winter grapes. They ripen at 2 different times. Early ripening grapes, they fully ripen during Shemitah, whereas the winter grapes, which they began to ripen on Shemitah, but they did not become fully ripened until the winter of the 8th year. Let's assume for a second that this year now is Shemitah. It's not. Let's assume that it was. So if those grapes started to ripen already, let's say a month and a half ago during Elul, and then you crossed over into the Shemitah year, and they become ripe in a month from now, when it's like winter, or 2 months, then that would be a problem with Shemitah. Rabbi Yehuda Matir Kozman Shebikru Ad Shlo Yichle HaKayitz. Rabbi Yehuda allows one to continue eating early ripening grapes on account of winter grapes, provided that the winter grapes have begun ripening before the summer harvest had not yet ended. Okay, Mishnah Hey. HaKoivesh Shlosha Kivasim Bechavis Achas. If someone pickles 3 types of vegetables in a single barrel of vinegar or salt water, and each type absorbed the flavor of the other 2 types, Rabbi Eliezer says, Ochlin al harishon, we may eat the vegetables only on account of the first species to reach its time of biur. As soon as one of the species in the barrel reaches its biur deadline, all the vegetables in the barrel require biur, because they contain the flavor of that forbidden species. Rishon argues in this and says, Achron, you may eat all the vegetables, even on account of the last species to reach its time of biur, even if they had passed their biur deadlines, we can still eat them because of the single species that has not yet reached its deadline. And the third opinion says, Al Kol Shekala Emina Minasadeh. When one of the species has disappeared from the field, Yevaer Mino Minachavis, then he removes that species from the barrel and performs biur with it, since his time of biur has arrived. But you can continue eating the other 2 species whose biur has not yet arrived. The halacha kedvar, and the halacha follows the opinion of Rabban Gamliel. Period. Rabbi Shimon Omer, however, Rabbi Shimon says, Kol Yarak Echad the biur. All species of vegetables are treated as one with regard to biur, so there's no obligation to remove vegetables from the house as long as the vegetables of any species are available in the field. Therefore, even if all 3 of the species in the barrel have disappeared from the fields, one can continue to eat all 3 of them as long as some other types of vegetables are still available. Okay, then we're going to talk about purslane. Ochlim Regila Ad Yichlu Cigarios Bikas based Netufa. Now this is we continue to eat purslane until the time that artichokes disappear from the valley of Beis Netufa, which is an exceptionally well-watered area the artichokes last for a long time. Once even the artichokes of Beis Netofa have dried up, then it must be assumed that all purslane has disappeared from the fields and thus requires biur. Mishnah Vav, sorry. Hamalakit asavim lachim, if one gathers fresh, moist grasses and brings them into his home. Ad shiur hamatuk, he may use them only until the moisture of the Shemitah rains has dried up. Hamagaviv yavish, but if one gathers dry grasses, ad sheterid reviyashnia, he may continue using them until the second rains of the 8th year, because those rains make the dry grasses unfit for animals. Ale kanim ale gefanim. If one gathers fresh leaves of reeds and fresh leaves of grapevines, ad yeshu yavihen, he may use them in the home until they fall from their branches, at which point they become unfit for animals. If one gathers dry leaves, he may use them until the second rains of the 8th year, because those rains make the dry leaves of Shemitah unfit for animals. Akiva says that Kulan, in all these cases, the grasses and leaves, whether they are fresh or dry, one may use them until the second rains of the 8th year. Mishnah Zayin, coming right up. Almost done. Kiyotzibo, Hamaskir bias the Chaveru ad Hageshamim ad Shetere B'Viyashnia. Similarly, if one person rents a house to another, specifies that the lease should last until the rains, meaning that the lease lasts until the second rains fall, he may not evict the tenant before then. Likewise, if someone is prohibited by a neder to benefit from another person, and is specified that the prohibition lasts until the rains, the prohibition remains in force until the second rains fall. Until when may the poor enter other people's orchards and fields to gather the gifts to the poor? Only until the second rain falls. From that time, from the time that the second rain falls, seeds of the new crops begin to sprout, and walking on the land harms the newly growing plants. From when may we benefit from or burn stubble and straw of Shemitah? From when the second rains fall in the 8th year. At that point, the straw and stubble in the field becomes unfit for animals to eat, and so one must perform biur with the straw and stubble that he has in the house. Once biur has been performed, then the straw and stubble lose their Shemitah kedusha and may be used even in a destructive manner. Mishnah Ches, Misha Hayulo Perush Sheviis V'Giya Shas Biur. A person has produce of Shemitah in his house when the time for biur arrives. He may distribute 3 meals worth of food to each member of his household and to each of his friends and relatives. He then leaves what remains at the entrance of his house, gives up his rights of ownership on it, and says, "My brothers, the house of Israel, whoever has need to take, let him take." Poor people may take the produce and eat it after biur has been performed. But not rich people. That's according to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi says, both poor and rich people may take and eat it after the biur. Because once it becomes hefker, it's open to anybody. The hefker is not considered the matnas ani and matnas kahuna. Those they can't, the Yeshirim can't take from Leka Shich and Peya, and they can't take Meisterani, but they can take Hefker. And finally, Mishnah Tes, Mishahayulo Peir Sheviis Shenafu Lo Birusha Oshenatnu Oshenitnu Lo Matana. If someone has Shemitah produce that fell to him as a Yerusha, as inheritance, or was given to him as a gift, Eliezer says, "You it should be given to others who will eat it together with him. He may not eat the produce by himself because he would then be likely to express gratitude to his benefactor, which is prohibited. You can't say thank you to someone that gave you Shemitah produce as a gift because it's not his to give. The Chachamim say, that the sinner, the recipient who sins, if he expresses gratitude, should not receive any benefit from the produce for free. Rather, it should be sold to him. Meaning he must pay for the produce, and he will not feel gratitude. But the mayhem, and the money should be distributed to all the people. And finally, isa Sheviis ad shlo horma chalasa misa. If someone ate from a dough of Shemitah before its challah was separated, this challah is a manas kahuna. He is chai misa b'di shemayim, just as he would be to eat a dough of non-Shemitah produce before challah was separated. The laws of challah don't change regardless of Shemitah; they still apply. Okay, that is the end of Perek Tes. Good Chodesh. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow for the last Perek of Sheviis.